G'day everybody, welcome to a bit of a special episode of the EveryWei podcast here. Of course, my name is Everyday, with me is Yulwei, and we've got a special guest here, John Yao. Do you want to explain to everyone who you are and what you do?
Hey, what's up guys? I'd be happy to. I'm the CEO of 𝘀𝗀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀, and what I do is manage everything with relation to the brand. Global operations and everything. Of course, I have an amazing team behind me, but setting the vision for 𝘀𝗀𝗰𝗀𝗀 and where we want to be in the next couple of years, that's me.
Awesome. We just want to say, right at the top of the show, thank you so much for being here. It means a huge amount to us, because 𝘀𝗀𝗰𝗀𝗀 entering the VCS was pretty exciting. It's a big brand, obviously, mostly known for Dota, but hey, we're glad to have you in the league.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for reaching out and setting up this interview. Thanks for making the time for me. I think, VCS is really great. And I think we're very excited to be in League of Legends, first of all. And then secondly, also very excited to be in VCS. I think it's a great league to be in. We can talk about all the reasons why.
Well, yeah, that's actually just kind of where I wanted to start. A bit more generally is, how long have 𝘀𝗀𝗃 been looking to get into League, just in general?
So we've been looking at League for a long time. I'd say, maybe like a year and a half we've been looking at League. So League of Legends is not a game where you just kind of wake up and you're like, oh, I want to get into a team, or I want to, get into League. There's a significant process behind getting into League of Legends, right? Especially with the franchise leagues, and even some of the leagues that are not franchise, like VCS. So there's a great deal of planning that's involved with League of Legends, and we always knew that we wanted to get into League of Legends because it's one of the top games in the world in any market that you can imagine. So we started this process of looking at what makes sense for us and for 𝘀𝗀𝗃 as a brand, right? We pride ourselves on being very diverse, very global. So we have teams all over the world, and two areas that we really like to focus on is one, Europe, right, where our Dota team is, where our Counter-Strike team is, where our Rainbow Six team is, and Southeast Asia, where we have a lot of also popular teams like our PUBG Mobile team, for instance, in Malaysia and Thailand, and now our League of Legends team in Vietnam. And so we were looking at those various markets, and VCS to us stood out a lot. One, because it's not a franchise market yet, so it has a lot of upside to it, but also because the fan base in Vietnam seems to be extremely passionate.
Absolutely.
And I think and so I'm sure one of the motivations would be similar to yours for casting VCS, because the fan base is so great, the games are very hyped, the teams are really good. I mean, they perform on the global level, right? And every year, like when you go to Worlds, you're always like, oh man, what's the Vietnam team's gonna do? Because they're gonna pull out some crazy draft, right? Or do something crazy like swap lanes, like etc. Like, so they have like really great talent, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to be at VCS.
Yeah, so sorry, go ahead.
Yes, also an option with the new PCS coming up, and you said Southeast Asia is your biggest focus for some games. PCS, of course, is the new league there. Did you also look there, or was VCS more of the more attractive league to go to?
I think VCS was a bit more attractive, not because of the fans or the teams or anything like that, but because as a league, I think it's slightly more along the maturity curve than PCS itself. I think PCS just formed this year, right? So everything goes through kind of like a maturity curve, with NA, LCS, and LEC being the most mature leagues, I would say, because they're obviously franchised, they have set processes in place, and even the Chinese LPL league, also very mature, right? Big sponsorships, etc. I think some of the other up and coming leagues, you can see like 𝘀𝑠𝗀𝗃, also very mature league. VCS, I would put right up along there. And I think PCS is still coming along. So to us, VCS seemed like a more obvious choice with regards to the maturity of the overall league.
Okay, that's really interesting. That's kind of interesting, because something we've had the impression of, based on not directly talking to orgs, because we don't have those contacts, but just people who are around the VCS in Vietnam, sort of have said that it's a bit more relaxed in terms of running orgs there. And I was actually going to ask, how has 𝘀𝗀𝗃 sort of adapted to that? Because I imagine it's a fairly different environment, but according to you, maybe it's not so different.
I would say VCS is actually pretty mature in terms of overall the Vietnam market, as well as operations on how to run a team, interacting with all the other teams. I mean, Riot has done a really great job in organizing the various leagues, and has a lot of like guidelines and rules around processes that you should follow. And so as long as you follow those processes, I think overall it leads to success. So I think when it comes to comparing VCS to some of the other leagues and some of the other markets that we are in for the other games, I haven't really seen much of a difference in terms of less, I guess, less discipline. I would say it's right up among the more disciplined markets and leagues and teams that we've dealt with.
Okay, that's super interesting.
That's very interesting and
Absolutely.
good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to hear that, that the VCS is that far along. I think shocked is not the right word, but very glad to hear that you put it right alongside, or maybe I think you said a little bit behind the 𝘁𝗀𝗃, which is really good, because the 𝘁𝗀𝗃 is a great league, right? In terms of organization.
Yeah, 𝘁𝗀𝗃 is one of the best.
Exactly.
One of the best.
Glad to hit the VCS is
yeah,
up there.
I think in terms of market maturity, I think one area that is might be a little bit different is the market for sponsorships, because I think working in Vietnam, at least in the onset, we haven't been in the market that long, but talking to the various sponsors and various companies, I think there's a little bit more of a education process on esports, what we bring to the table, how's it different from regular sports. So there's a little bit of like bringing them along, a little bit more so than some of the other markets that we worked in, where some of the major companies that we work with globally that sponsor esports or work with esports teams are a little bit more farther along on the esports experience, so to speak. So I would say that's mostly a difference. I think team management, more or less the same. Working with the other teams, talking to league operations, things like that. I'd say it's pretty high up there in terms of maturity.
Good. That's really good to hear.
I would like to ask you about the goals for the team on the VCS. So short-term, long-term goals, and also in terms of fan base, do you aspire to be the biggest team in Vietnam in terms of fan following, which is probably hard to achieve right now, with 𝘀𝗀 being far and away the most popular team, I would imagine. Is that something you're also thinking about, or?
I think in terms of goals, we always want to do things to please the fans, and to get more fans into our community. And so I would say that it's definitely a tough road ahead, because 𝘀𝗀 obviously has a lot of history, and they've had a lot of history of success. So therefore, right, they have a huge fan following in Vietnam, and there's I view it as something that is not super competitive, meaning it's not like you have to be a 𝘀𝗀 fan or a Secret fan, right? You could be a fan of both. And that's a lot of the way that we approach esports in our various market strategies, right? So we're not a team that's like, oh, we want to be based in EU, and we only want EU fans, or we want to be based in one country and we only want one country's fans, or we want to have this we're a Dota organization and we only want Dota fans, right? We're really an organization where we're like, hey, look, esports is a very global movement, right? There's literally no barriers, right? You just play online, everybody can participate. There's very low barriers to entry. So we want to personify that, and we want to bring that forward, to say that, look, we want to be something for all the fans, right? We want to be something for fans for every game. So it's not this we only want to be Dota, or we only want to be League of Legends, or we only want to be Europe, or we only want to be Asia, right? We kind of want to be esports fans, esports organization for everyone. And so that's our goal, right? Just to grow our organization. And I envision, right, that we will work closely with the other Vietnamese teams to grow League of Legends in Vietnam. But our role as an international organization see us bring VCS and Vietnamese esports into the world, right? So introducing some of our top players like Artifact, Celebrity, etc., right? All these guys that have amazing skills and amazing personality. I think we can introduce those guys to the world, right? Similar to like 𝘀liche, right? You see like some of these bigger than life personalities come out of 𝘀liche, these Korean players that, you know, are known worldwide, right? We want to do the same for VCS.
See, that's actually really interesting, because that's something we were wondering. Sort of perhaps even what brought up this interview was when we were on cast, we were kind of wondering that kind of thing, because it was a bit of a slow game. And we were talking about it because at the moment, yeah, sort of the Vietnamese scene, at least how it's seen outside of the people that follow it, is, yeah, they'll come to Worlds, they'll do something crazy, but then that's probably it. They won't really make it out of groups. They're not world beaters, even though 𝘀𝗰 last year probably should have made it out of groups, but we're not going back to that one. That's still a point of pain.
Sure.
So I'm curious, how do you plan on doing that? Because I mean, I have no experience, obviously. How do you expose a relatively insular market and open it up to the rest of the world?
So I think there's a number of ways that we are approaching this, right? One is, you know, the Secret brand overall is very international, very global, right? So by just being here, we immediately bring some presence and some, you know, spotlight to our Vietnamese players, just introducing them to our fans, right? The second thing is we are doing tons of content just to introduce the players and the personalities, their amazing personalities, to the world. And so we do this by, you know, they speak Vietnamese, you know, their levels of English vary from player to player, of course. But our staff is very good at helping to translate all of that, right? So if you look at all of our content, it's always subtitled. You know, we use your cast a lot of the time to do highlights and things like that for the Western markets, while we still cater to the Vietnamese fans by, you know, our Facebook group and everything that is more in the local language. So we're doing that, you know, in terms of that, but in terms of performance as well, we hope to bring a lot of the global management discipline that we've had for the other teams to our League of Legends team. And so it's things like, you know, player management, just having, you know, house rules, for instance, on, you know, when you should wake up, when you should, you know, go to practice. What are some of the rules around, you know, showing up for practice and doing team talks afterwards? One of the biggest things that we brought is we actually had a global analytics department that helps us with drafting and patches and things like that, and various bits of analysis for our Dota team and our Counter-Strike team, etc., that we're also bringing to League of Legends. So we've built this amazing dashboard that breaks down every patch, breaks down, you know, all of our opponents and everything. And so we're trying to integrate that more into our performance processes. So not only are we trying to bring more globalization and global discipline to our performance, but we're also trying to do it on the branding and introducing our players to the world. So
also tying into the last point about globalization and stuff, so the VCS so far is together with the 𝘀liche, if you don't count the CK teams, the only league that doesn't have any imports, right? And we were always wondering, when will the first import come to the VCS, and will there be an import? And with you talking about more the more global approach, the global analytics and so on, do you think there's also a world where you bring in the first non-Vietnamese player, or do you want to focus on keeping it Vietnamese so far, right now in the VCS?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not really sure what the timing is for that. But I would say for us to bring in or to look at bringing in someone from outside of VCS, it would have to be with a purpose. So should it be someone with you know, coaching experience or analytics experience, or someone from, you know, one of the other leagues that will bring a new level of discipline for the team? We're always looking at ways where we can bring experience and discipline from other markets to our various teams. And we've done it in Dota, we've done it in you know, we've done it in Rainbow Six, we've done it in a number of other games that and teams that we've managed. So I don't know what the timeline is for that. I'd say right now we're very happy with our team, and we want to focus on the Vietnamese market. I'd say in the future, I mean, the door is always open. And if the right opportunity comes along where we say, hey, look, we really, you know, value, you know, this experience, then we will use that experience to help our team.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. So just to sort of break up the more meaty questions, you mentioned the team's been moving recently. So I imagine, maybe not you directly, but you must. Is there any, I don't know, funny stories or that about the team that's been going on? We don't really know much about them as people. We sort of only see them on the screen because, again, we don't speak any Vietnamese. So up until now, where there's the subtitled content, we haven't really been getting anything. So do you have any fun stories or anything about them?
I mean, I have fun stories all over the place. I don't know how appropriate some of them are. So
I mean, don't worry. We're flagged mature on Twitch, so go nuts. As long as you're happy to tell them.
Okay. Yeah, so we just moved into a team house. We actually spent some time to build this team house. You know, the house itself was existing, but we tried to retrofit it so that it's, you know, very clearly the team secret house, right. And has everything that the players need. You know, all the furniture and everything's custom, all the graphics, all the wall art. We built the training room from the ground up to make sure that the players have a good environment. And spent, you know, roughly 2 weeks moving in.
Wow.
And I would say the teams have the players have a very good rapport with each other. I mean, they're almost like they're like the best of friends. And they do a lot of crazy stuff together. I remember, you know, one story when Celebrity moved in. I immediately get a call from our team manager, and he's like, "Yeah, this house is not going to work." Like, what do you mean the house is not going to work? We just spent God knows how much money on this house, and we spent all this time to try to set up this house, and the whole team is moving in, and he's like, "Oh, the house is not going to work." I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." So I get on the phone with him and our house manager, Leo, who's an awesome guy. But I get on the phone with him. I'm like, yeah, so what's the problem, right? Why is the house not going to work? And he's like, well, my room, the way that my room is set up, the feng shui is not like right. Like I feel like demons when I play. You know, it's like I feel like demons when I play or something. I was like, what? So how do I get it right? What's the right like? Cause you know, I don't know about any of this. Right? I'm just like, all right, bedroom furniture. Let's buy some better bedroom furniture that fits the room. So we actually had to have him swap rooms with another player. So that the feng shui, like the lighting, the position of the furniture, like all that stuff had to be right so that he felt comfortable playing in the house. So that was like day one.
I'm glad to know you handled it at least. But that's pretty great. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because obviously 𝘀𝗀's probably the most popular brand, with Buffalo probably the second. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm only basing it on sort of our community. But it's funny because I'd say the team we talk about most is Team Secret. Just because, and this is something our viewers will definitely laugh at, is, well, yeah, it's been a bit of an up and down split, but we won't dwell on that. It's been good overall, but up and down. But also because our Discord is in love with Hani. I couldn't tell you why. I could not tell you why or where it started. But they are, it is the Discord's favourite player by a country mile.
That's awesome. The Hani memes. I love it.
Yeah, you can say that again.
You know, when he's performing, I get like the Hani 𝘀𝗀ce memes all the time. And then when he's not performing, I get, you know, other memes that we won't discuss on stream.
The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Yeah.
Is how we've been praising it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The populars of the other teams, for sure. I mean, they have amazing history, and I think part of, you know, bringing in you know, the fans and getting fan following is to have history, just to show that, you know, you're here to stay, and we are definitely here to stay. So hopefully we're able to reach the fans in the same way, and we're working towards that very hard. But for Hani, I would say he's also one of my favorite guys. You know, when I first talked to him, I'm like, hey, look, listen, sometimes you have these amazing, amazing performances where you're up against the best top laners. And I know, like, top lane is
not
like,
great.
It's a tough ask, right? Because you're kind of just all alone. you know, by yourself. You know, all the other guys are just fighting, you know, taking dragons, you know, taking objectives, or you just, you know, farming away, just going one-on-one, you know, hopefully not getting ganked too hard, that kind of thing. So it's a tough lane to play, but he plays it, and sometimes he does really, really well, and sometimes, you know, but you know what I tell him is for him, I think it's a confidence thing, where, you know, he has all the talent in the world, and if he's feeling really good on a particular day, he can go toe to toe with anyone. And then, you know, when he's feeling not so good, then, you know, it's he's a little out of sync. But you know, we're working on those issues, and I think he takes it with stride, because he does read those comments and things like that, and sometimes he gets them down, sometimes, you know, he laughs it off. But I think for someone who's so young, and to be such a focus of online discussion, I think handling that really well and not, you know, collapsing out of the gate is already pretty good.
Yeah, well, if he ever does feel down, you can ensure him that the English VCS community loves him, even when he has his down days.
Absolutely.
They
even write fanfic about him, apparently.
Which is not normal and not something we encourage, but it happens anyway.
Amazing.
Not normal.
So, I wanted to go back to the start, because of course Team Secret is still very new to the league, and this might be the most unfortunate time to start in a league ever, with COVID, of course, happening right now. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you if you can elaborate on the situation right now on the team with lockdowns and stuff going on. There's a curfew in Vietnam, right? In effect. So
yeah, I think the situation is changing every day. I mean, every day you wake up and there's new government orders and things like that. So we have to monitor the situation very closely. I think at the beginning of this, you know, obviously there's a major health impact, and, you know, hoping everybody stays safe, including, you know, all of our staff, you know, their families and everything. But in terms of esports operations, aside from a couple of events getting canceled, we hadn't seen that many, that big of an impact, because everything was moving online. I think it is getting a little bit harder, and there's a couple, you know, more logistical things that you have to worry about, just because, you know, getting cameramen to the house when there's a curfew, or make sure that the team has plenty of access to food and things like that. Just operationally, you know, life stuff, I think is getting a little bit more difficult. But we, you know, we have a great staff on the ground that's taking care of the boys. You know, the VCS league operations doing really well. We've moved it all online. So far, you know, things are still going along, but we'll take it day to day. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with regards to, you know, things going on in Vietnam. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is quite lucky Vietnam, compared to a lot of other countries, has been doing pretty damn well when it comes to the coronavirus, which is obviously great.
Yeah, I'm hiding in Singapore. I mean, I'm not going back to the US. I'm not going back to the US. I'm just hiding in Singapore.
I would, yes, going anywhere at the moment seems pretty risky. Singapore sounds like a pretty safe place to hide out. But obviously health and safety comes first. I think everyone understands that. All the delays going online and that, you just have to do it. It's just the reality. So something I actually just wanted to briefly bring up is just going back to that point about Hani, but using Hani as a specific, but talking about all the players in general. We saw that 𝘁cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 came in this split, and I think it immediately changed how Team Secret played top lane. Not just in terms of, I mean, 𝘁cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 is a different player, therefore he plays differently. But he was very solid, but I think it also made Hani better. Is there a philosophy in the team when it comes to getting substitutes? I think 𝘁cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 is the only one at the moment, but would you consider, you know, bringing in subs to keep the main players a bit more motivated?
That really hasn't been a strong consideration for us. I think the way that we look at our players, we would hope, and, you know, we try to recruit players that are all, you know, very self-motivated, that they, you know, they want to be the best, they want to win, and they want to do whatever it takes to help the team win. When we insert 𝘁cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀, I mean, all of this is, you know, it's not based on me, it's based on, you know, whatever Nicks and the coaching staff decide. But whenever they make substitutions and things like that, it's always for the good of the team, whether it's, you know, matchup related, or it's patch related, or it's, hey, this is the draft that we're shooting for, and so we know, you know, this is 𝘁𝗁𝗆's champion pool versus this is Hani's champion pool, right? So they make those to say that we have been one of the components that we brought in is to talk to the players more from a psychology perspective.
Okay, cool.
So one of the things we're trying to boost Hani's confidence, trying to talk to him and be like, look, there's a reason why you're here. These are the games and the series that you've played really, really well. So think back on those. The type of feeling, the type of mindset, the type of pressure that you were under while you were playing those series that you did really, really well, and try to replicate that. So there are psychological aspects that we try to bring for all of our players, and I think there's one of the things that we want to improve for our team, and that we think we have the capability to improve. So it's not necessarily a sort of competition with the subs, whether it's subs or not. I think it's just like the players understand that whoever gets put in is for the good of the team and for the good of that game. But there are things that we are trying to do actively as management and as staff to improve our players' performance.
Okay, that's really interesting. It's good to hear. I always like to hear when esports teams sort of bring in the psychology side of it, because I think it's one of the things that is most provably valuable throughout the history of esports. You can point to many different teams in many different games just instantly leveling up once they actually got that side of the deal sorted out. So glad to hear it, honestly. Just very glad to hear it. So
zooming into the spring split once again, so very, very week to week and so on. The Secret is now on 4 series loss streak, of course, and it's one split is not super important, but we would like to see them make playoffs. Do you think you make playoffs? And if not, or even if you do, what needs to change for summer to be an even better team? And
maybe you got to bring up the 4 loss streak. It hurts my heart to talk about this.
It hurts us to watch it.
So I mean, the 4-game loss streak, of course, the 4 series loss streak, of course, is not something you want to see. But we're taking it in stride, and the way that we're taking it in stride is we're looking at some of the high points. So one is we pushed GAM to their limits, the best team in the league. Last week we took a game off them, and it was very close game 3 as well. So we're very happy about that. There's a lot of good points to take from that that we can learn from. The second thing is during 2 of those weeks, it's kind of like management fault as well, because during 2 of those weeks where we had some issues and things like that, we were actually moving houses. So as you can imagine, like the players are trying to pack up their stuff, they're trying to pack up their computers and everything, and then they're trying to move to a new house, new computer configuration, new way of living. So this just kind of like threw off everybody on their game. And then Artifact was out, right? Food poisoning for 2 weeks. So it was like one thing after the other. But we're starting to get back into the comfort zone. Everybody's moved in. They're very comfortable with all their computer equipment and everything. They're scrimming, on a daily basis now, which was not the case while we were moving. We were almost playing out of a LAN cafe. So things are starting to get back to normal in terms of the team's feel. And you can see that in our series with GAM. The teams are very motivated, a lot more crisp with their rotations, a lot the teamwork, the communications, and everything is a lot better. So we hope to close off this split strong in the next week. I think we play VGA and I think we play Team Flash, 2 very good teams. So I hope we can, and we've beaten both of them. So hopefully we can close off strong. But in playoffs, I think we're going to try to bring a whole different level of discipline. From preparation to the psychology, to the team talks, to the analytics that supports each match. We're going to bring all of that to the playoffs, assuming that we make it. And then for summer split, same thing. We're finally getting into the rhythm of the team living together in the same house, scrimming together, but also living under new management, right? So our relationship with the team, our relationship with the team managers, etc., how we work with them, how they work with our global staff. Like, for instance, our analytics department is global. All of that is, it takes a period of time to get used to. And I think we're finally coming around to getting everybody comfortable. And so hopefully with that comfort level comes, hey, now we can focus on our gameplay.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's nothing we want more than more challenges at the top of the VCS, because it gets a little bit boring when it's just Garm crushing everybody. And I mean, we've said it for 2 splits now that Secret and 𝘀cie previously have always had the makings of a top team. So if it all comes together, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know if you are, Yulwei, but I know I am.
Absolutely, yeah. I would like to see a third team that's able to challenge for the title.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to share though. So when we first, so our very first day as Team Secret, I essentially sat down with every single staff and every single player on the team. So it was like 13 conversations, each half an hour to an hour, to talk to them about their goals, what they want to accomplish, get a feel for them, get to know them, etc. And one of the things that came out of those conversations, I also asked them, okay, if there's anything that you would want to improve on the team in self-reflection, what would that be? And every single player, and I kid you not, every single player without fail, every single staff member said, we need more discipline.
Okay.
Right? And they said that about themselves. And so that's one of the things that, when I heard that, I was like, hey, that's amazing, because that's one of the things that we can bring on a global level, because we have such experience managing all these teams that we can really help bring, discipline to the team, set training schedules, team talks, right? The psychology aspect, using things like analytics, right? All those things that I mentioned before are all different facets of discipline that we can bring in.
Mm-hmm.
And, having the team, every single one of them say that they're very open and receptive to that, is something that I think bodes very well for our future.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's probably the best thing you could have heard when it was what do you want to improve? It wasn't just we need to kick a certain player or anything silly like that. But yeah, that's I'm very excited about Team Secret's future in the VCS for sure. I'm super psyched to have a I'll admit I've never followed Dota particularly closely, but I'm a pretty big Rainbow Six fan, so I've been aware of Team Secret for a while, so it was really cool to see you guys entering the league. They're definitely one of the esports orgs I don't know if I'd call myself a fan of any one org, but definitely one of the teams I like. So it's great to have you in the league for sure.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, particularly bringing the professionalism.
So maybe as a closing topic, a little zooming out a little bit more, and maybe you can tell us about how much you are involved with all the games. Do you have time to watch all your team's games, and do you focus on particular games you understand better? Maybe I don't know about your history. Do you come from one particular game, or do you try to keep up with all the different scenes?
I try to keep up with everything. I try to watch all of our games. Sometimes it's a little bit hard when multiple playing at once, but then I'll have multiple screens open, that kind of thing. I mean, it comes back to, philosophy, right? I think not just in esports and not just with Secret in particular, but if you want to succeed at any one thing, you have to kind of be in the thick of it. You have to be very hands-on. You can't just kind of, manage things at arm's length, right? And so as one of the things that, is my own personal philosophy, when we first started League of Legends, I was on the ground talking to all the players one-on-one as a team, setting up the team house, all those things. I think there's really value in that, because I think, the players and the staff, they can see that you genuinely want them to succeed. And I think that's important for how the things that we want to do going forward. And I think for me, it's very exciting, right? Getting into new games, as well as, some of the existing games that are out there that are very popular. For me, I'm a little bit older than the players, obviously. I'd say I've aged out of esports as a player. But I very much enjoy talking to all the young guys that we have, and bringing them along, and just talking to them not just about esports, but about life. And I think that they teach me a lot also about things that they're going through, their own situations, how they approach the game, their mental state. So for me, it's very exciting, and I like to get into all of the teams, all of the games. And these guys, they're part of us, right? So I'm very much personally invested in their success.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, that's great to hear. Just overall, But yeah, we don't want to keep you forever. Thank you again so much for coming and having a chat to us. It means a lot to us. As just a humble little fan cast, getting to talk to someone that's actually important in esports in general and the
No, not at all. You guys, your cast is great. I mean, I watch your cast all the time. You know, because I don't understand what the VCS casters are saying. So you guys are doing a huge benefit to the community in my mind. So I mean, anytime you guys need anything, you want me to come on, talk about stuff, Hani memes, whatever you need.
Don't make that offer because our community will not let you forget it. But thank you. But seriously, thank you so much. It does genuinely mean a lot from us here. So yeah, we've got to hope the Team Secret can bounce back from their losing record and secure their playoff spot because I know I want to see them there. But do you have any closing words, Yulwei or John, before we want to sign this one off?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm good. Let's pull it out in the last week. Let's go.
Fingers crossed. So yeah,
I think Secret can do it. I'm excited to see what they have to offer. Flash might be a little bit of a tall order, but I think VGA should be doable. And then 7-7, maybe some tiebreakers here and there should be very exciting.
Absolutely. So yeah,
should be very exciting. I mean, it's like what? It's like 5 teams vying for the last 2 playoff spots. It's very exciting.
It's very, very fun as a fan to not know who's actually going to go to playoffs for sure. But yeah, that'll be it for us. I think we once again, I'll repeat myself. Thanks again, John, for coming on. Love to hear a bit more about Secret. And we'd hope to talk to you again one time. Hopefully when Secret's had some big successes in the VCS scene. So see you guys. We'll be back probably next week for another episode of the EveryWei podcast. Have a good one, everyone.